So now, thank you, Maggie, that was nice. We're going to hear from Katherine Atkinson, who I've gone out of order with. She is the Director of Global Channel Partners at Illumina, Inc., which is based here in San Diego, and she's going to pass on some information about specific skills you need in sales and marketing.
Right, so thank you very much for having me. It's actually quite an honor to be here with all of you and some impressive talks already so far. I am going to take it from a little different perspective, and one of the things that I really like is seeing very smart, very scientific people out there who might be interested in sales roles, because we definitely have a spot for you at Illumina, but really in the biotech industry, there are a lot of opportunities to change your career because we need people who have that technical expertise. I'm here today to talk a little bit about, the sales role, but really the price of not negotiating. And so for any of us in everyday life, we have to negotiate, whether you're at a car dealership and wanting to knock something off that sticker price, or you're actually negotiating on behalf of yourself, which I think is the most intimidating that we have to encounter, actually. So let me talk to you a little bit about the price of not negotiating. So I'm going to take a scenario where we have 2 openings on one sales team, and we're offering a man and a woman that same roles, right? Equal roles. Both of them are going to get a spot. The man, we offer a salary of, let's say, $100,000. He comes back and he negotiates. He gets 108. Same role, right? Another spot on this team is offered to a woman. A woman gets the $100,000 offer and says, "Thank you so much, that's great," and accepts. This is very common in my life, right? So this happens, but if you're a female today in this room and you identify with this, congratulations, you have to work 8 years longer than that man to go for retirement. That's honest to God true, because what's going to happen in subsequent years, your merit pay, your promotions, all your increases are based on a percentage of your salary. So if they're doing a cost of living increase next year, and let's say it's 2.5, she's getting 2.5 of that salary, he's getting 2.5 of that. Who's getting more, right? And so for all you men in the room today, congratulations. You actually negotiate at 2.5 times the rate of women do. So women feel more apprehension. That means that women are giving up about $500,000 by the time they're 60 years old by not negotiating. And actually, for all men and women, a lot of college graduates coming out of school, estimates are as high as over $1 million that you're losing in lost wages because you didn't negotiate for what you are really worth. And then finally, it's a shame for the women in this room that may identify with this, because even if you do negotiate, we tend to ask for 30% less than the male counterparts sitting here today. And that's really a shame. So let's talk about why people don't negotiate. And this is for all men and women, by the way. And I actually did a lot of research on this, and I actually asked my team. So I have a huge team at Illumina, and I asked a lot of them. I said, "Why didn't you negotiate?" And first, they said they didn't know they could. So the salary they got offered, they didn't know that they can come back with a counter offer. If you're like me early on in my career, I felt like the system would take care of me, and I really liked what you said, right? Because you think you're going to come in, you're going to work really hard, you're going to prove yourself, and they're just going to rain that money down on you in those promotions. Corporate America is not like that, okay? So it doesn't necessarily happen like that. And you don't want to harm the relationship. A lot of people feel like it could be contentious, right? But honestly, active negotiation is not really held against anybody. And then they're not ready, or they feel they lack experience. And for those of you who may be wanting to consider a sales role, and you may not have done selling before, that doesn't mean you don't have a value. It doesn't mean that you're not worth something to me, okay? Especially if you want to go into biotech sales. So one thing I want to do is step away from the actual negotiation, because how you position yourself really makes the biggest difference when you actually go to negotiate. It's that stuff you did up front. And so when you're getting ready for that interview, make sure you're persistent, okay? And I like what you said about being persistent, but pull back when you start to stalk, right? So that's a good line. I'll use that one in the future. But prepare. Please know something about the company. Oftentimes the first question I ask for somebody is to give me their bottom line analysis or top line analysis of Illumina. How much work have you done on my company? And if you can't give me a top line analysis, we're in trouble. Sell yourself. You don't have to wait for that negotiation to start selling yourself. Sell yourself throughout that whole interview process. And then know something about a sales philosophy. I do not like it, and nor do most of my colleagues at the company, when somebody says they're getting into sales because, oh, I'm a people person. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is, do you like the thrill of the kill? Do you like the competition? Do you want to solve that customer's problems? Do you want to find a solution for their research? What kind of books have you read basically on sales philosophy? How can you apply that? Being a people person doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to deliver me results. On the success factors, we actually look for these things in the interview process, and we will score, right, based on these factors. Drive for revenues is really big in sales. But if you haven't been in a sales role and you're coming to me, you can still demonstrate a drive for results. Okay, where were you successful? How did you drive, your lab to succeed in certain areas, or the project you were on? How did you take that role, that leadership role? Customer focus is super important in sales. Obviously, we want to solve customers' problems. Interpersonal savvy, that's very important in sales. I need someone who can balance strategic and tactical agility, and that can be hard. And then, of course, we need that technical acumen. So in my particular company, because we are a biotech company, we do look for people who have some technical expertise, and that's super important. When it actually comes down to negotiating your salary, so you've gone through the interview, you were persistent, you prepared, you had a sales philosophy, you were able to demonstrate that drive that I believe will, correlate to drive for revenue when you get in that role. A lot of people make a lot of mistakes in this, and I'm giving you my impression of what those mistakes are, and everybody makes them almost every time. So it's rare that a candidate doesn't. I'm asking you to listen very closely and not say a lot, okay? Understand your offer, and if you need some clarity on the offer, ask those questions. Please do not accept that offer immediately. Do not say, wow, that's more than I thought I would get, okay? We have this happen. We do. We have this happen. Please know who you're dealing with. At my company in particular, you're going to be dealing with a recruiter of mine. You won't deal with me directly when it comes to the negotiation or a lot of the process. So it's super important you know that even if you countered right then and there, that person does not have the ability to make that decision. Okay, so that's going to have to go up. And before you counter offer, make sure you know your worth and the value you brought to the table. That's super important. But I want to go back to bullet point 1, and when you're listening, again, you don't want to say, wow, that's a lot, that's more than I'm being paid now. And you don't also want to say anything negative, too, about the offer. Take some time to mull it over. Usually, they give you an opportunity to get back to somebody in 24 or 48 hours with the response, and take that time. So when you get ready to counter, and I say always counter something. So, we heard a little bit, there are many things that you can do in a negotiation, and one of those is salary, car allowance, stock options, signing bonuses. There are a lot of different things that you can do. In field sales, for instance, you're going to have a car. If you were walking to your job because you lived right down the street before, and now you're going into field sales, you might not have the down payment for a car. Ask for it. I've successfully done every single one of those things up there. But be prepared to highlight the reasons why you deserve these concessions and that you're worth it. And I believe that's why, the value, going back to knowing what your value is and communicating that during the interview process makes the negotiation much different. Because if a candidate has demonstrated a lot of value to me, I'm going to go higher on the counter. I'll accept a higher counter. And then here's my hint. This is my tip of the day. Most companies always leave room on the table for a counter. Don't leave that money for anybody else to come scoop up other than you. We at Illumina, or most companies, will have a low, a mid, and a high-end range on jobs. And if somebody's super valuable, I usually have some room to move. Okay? And I actually want to give it a little example here. I have only probably a minute or so, right? A minute and a half. Okay, so my daughter recently graduated from college. She got her first job, very low-paying job. She did an excellent job. Somebody from her company left, went to a corporate America job, and they wanted her as an event manager to come over. They knew what she was being paid. They offered her $8,000 more than she was being paid. She was very, very happy and told me she was going to accept. I said, counter. And she said, Mom, they offered me $8,000 more than I was being paid. They know what I'm making. Counter. No, I can't. Counter. So we had this debate. I helped her. She countered. She asked for another $5,000. They didn't give it to her, but they did split it down the middle. So they went after her. They knew what she could deliver, and they didn't want to lose her. And it also cost us more money to start our search again. I tell my reps this every single day. Price is important only in the absence of value. If somebody's coming back to me and they're asking, they need more of a discount for a customer, they didn't demonstrate that value up front. Illumina is the largest genetic sequencing company in the world, and our products are not cheap. But we still maintain that market share being the most expensive because we're able to demonstrate value. And the same goes to all of you. Demonstrate value in that interview process, and you'll make it. And then this is my last slide, so I'll just hit them all three because I've got my red button up. But you've heard this today from a couple of other speakers, so it must mean that since we're being consistent with our advice, that it means something. Please expand your connections. Make sure you're networking. Don't fear negotiations. It's to your own benefit. And definitely find somebody that you can lean into for coaching or that you can practice your counter proposal, because it can be nerve-wracking. I understand that. But there are a lot of people out there who can help with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katherine.